or if at all, as you reflect, did your early time when you were first getting to New York, working in studios and stuff, how did that, how does that affect or shape or mold what you do now, do you think?
I mean, it's all learning. It's all like I tell people all the time with production, making music, it's like a college or university with no graduation date. You know, you're going to class forever. The moment you think you figured it out, you're done. Like I'm learning every day new tricks, how to make things sound better, how to design sounds, how to make things sound like, the feeling I get when I put the needle on a record and I hear a sample. How can I create that without sampling? Just so I know, because there's lots of legalities to music, and I've had many songs I couldn't make money with because they had uncleared samples, knock on wood. So now I'm owning, my job is to have as many tools as possible as a producer to deliver a product, whether I use records or I make it from scratch. I work with musicians, and like, I don't want to be a one trick pony. So I spend all my time learning how to do a million things and being good at it, and that's what I love. That's the nerd. That's the beat nerd.
Gotcha. Okay. And on Richmond Hill, you got the Jordan Theory song, and that one I thought it was interesting because it goes right into the chorus, and then if I remember correctly, the verse when the first verse actually starts, it's not a clear delineation as far as musically or how Ace is flowing. So creatively, um, do you guys discuss that stuff beforehand, or does Ace just go in and do things and then you discuss it? Like, how does that process work?
Usually I structure a beat when I send it to Ace that has a clear hook and a clear verse, but sometimes he might not hear what I'm hearing, and he'll come and maybe start the verse in a part that I never thought would be the verse part, but I like it. So we roll with it. I think that's part of hip hop is breaking rules and not doing the typical thing, 8 bar hook, 16 bar verse. Like I think it's cool to ignore all that shit sometimes, and if it feels good and Ace starts rapping in a part that was supposed to be the hook, or he starts 1 bar later, sometimes those kind of things are cool. So um, we probably just decided whatever he was doing, wherever he started rapping, felt good and sounded good, so we rolled with it.
Okay.
And there's a video. That's the next video. Actually, I'm glad you said that. Jordan Theory video is coming soon.
Oh, I look forward to it. That's a song I thought was very interesting and had a lot of great imagery from Ace. So since Ace, as you know from before, you worked with him and has continued with your guys' collaborations, is very thematic and very concept driven. How does that uh, add any heft or any significance, in your opinion, to what you guys do?
Can you repeat that question? I didn't process it correctly. I don't think.
Well, what I'm saying is concept albums, people do them sometimes, people don't do them, what have you. But within the concept albums, Ace also has all these super concepts, Jordan Theory being one of them, where he's breaking down the shoes and the idea behind the methodology and the socioeconomics of things and all these different things, but it comes across, very succinctly, but very informative yet entertainingly. So when you realize this is what Ace does, and Ace brings a certain level, a heightened level of intellect to the music itself, when you're working on the stuff, does that give you any
Steel, yeah,
pause?
steel sharpens steel. That's how I like to say it.
Okay.
Ace is not an ordinary guy, and I can't make him ordinary beats. So the fact that I know he's always trying to do something interesting or tell a story, it pushes me to make beats that are not so generic. I got to push myself to make things interesting musically. I know the type of instruments he likes. I know the vibes he likes, and it allows me to put allows me to try things like a beat like Jordan Theory. Like that's not a sample. Like I was just me bugging with a bunch of synths and just having fun and making something interesting, and he liked it. And yeah, I just you have to imagine that we've been doing this. He's been writing raps for 30 plus years. I've been making beats for 20 years. Like, what do artists do to not get bored? I often find myself making the same beat and stopping myself and saying, no, I've done that. I've done that pattern. So now do this pattern. Just try. Like, what's more interesting, right? Because, and sometimes you produce cool results, um, changing things up. And I think he rides with whatever progression I have in my beats and I'm changing, he's also changing too. So it always kind of connects. So yeah.
So when you find yourself uh remaking a beat or doing it too similar to one that you've done before, do you just totally scrap it or do you figure out ways to tweak it so you can use it?
It depends. It depends. I've definitely many times started a beat and was like talking to myself, like, Marco, you've done this beat. Like, done. Move on. That happens a lot, you know. But artists, we overthink sometimes. I try and let things flow regardless. But, you know, there's definitely a certain type of beat that I feel like I've made many times, and I try to not do that if I've already done it, you know? So that's that's what literally sets off making a beat like certified. You know, if you listen to the drums and the pattern, it's still a break beat chopped up, but like the pattern is not typical boom boom cack, which is a typical boom bap pattern. Like I love that. I'm a boom bap head, but I like to like change it up. And you know, when you do that, it allows artists to try different things when they write songs and how they, you know, the flow and you know that to me is, you know, I want people to be like, "What the fuck is that? That sounds like hip hop, but like some shit I never heard." Like that's the goal, you know.
Right. No, and that's why I thought certified in particular was such an interesting choice from both of you to have on Richmond Hill because it's a very atypical feel, sound, style for Ace to
Yeah.
use.
Well, then we achieved it, right? This is, I mean, to
Yeah.
me, it still sound like a hip hop joint, but yeah, it got a different bounce. It's more up tempo. It's, you know, that's the goal. That's always the goal.
Yes. Now, on Richmond Hill, also you have the Scarborough skit talking about weed being a gateway drug. Obviously,
I'm laughing. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm laughing because I've gotten shit about this line from different friends.
we'll break it down. Why?
Shouts to one of my closest friends, DJ Skiz, also an amazing producer and DJ. No bias, but he hates that I said that. Primo does not like that I say that because they disagree. They disagree. For the record, Ace wrote the you know the script for me to read, so it's kind of embellished. Not all of it is actually factual or true. I don't think I ever drove to Scarborough to get drugs, but he wanted to paint the picture, right? So in Ace's mind, that was just something, you know, weed is a gateway drug. That's a whole conversation on another day with people that smoke weed because, you know, there's some people that would agree smoking weed would lead you to other drugs, and there's some people that would say, absolutely not. You can smoke weed and you'll be cool, you know? So I don't really have an opinion on it. For me, it definitely was a gateway drug because it started with weed and then I started doing other things. But I was also very young. So, you know, in general, I don't know how to answer that question. There's no right or wrong. I think everyone's experiences, there's some people that can have a beer on the weekend and then Monday they go back to work and they're functioning people in society. Then there's some people that have a beer on Friday night and then they have another one and then they have 30 and then they black out and they can't function casually drinking. So everyone's situation is different. People can smoke weed and then they're fine, and other people smoke weed and then they're like, weed doesn't get me high anymore. Now I gotta fucking do acid and do coke, and that doesn't work. So that, you know, everyone is different. So I don't think you can have a blanket statement to say weed is a gateway drug for everybody. Some people yes, some people no.
Well, that's part of why I thought it was an interesting statement because I've heard very impassioned arguments on either side.
Yeah.
But for you, as you're hearing, as you got the feedback that you did it make you laugh? Did it
Yeah,
frustrate you? Like,
it's funny to me because I don't care either way. I don't have an opinion on it. Like I said, you know, it's just like, but it definitely triggered some of my weed smoking friends. They're like, it's not a gateway drug. That's cool. Like, it's not for you. My story was different. You know, my theory is with things like that is for me personally, it's not worth the risk either way. Like, I don't need to be smoking weed. I miss it sometimes, but it never did anything good for me. So, like, why even do it? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I quit drinking and doing drugs, I think I was able to shift that addictive side of my personality into music. And that's why I'm here right now. I put that energy into this. So that was a positive flip of an addictive personality. That's my journey though, and it's not, I wouldn't just have a blanket statement that says that's the case for everybody when it comes to smoking weed. So all my weed head friends, That was just my experience. Smoke your weed.
Well, that also ties into the PPE, though, I thought rather nicely, um, with poor people everywhere and talking about the junkies and the pushers and everything. And this ties into not only that specifically, but the Life with Life music. With Ace, there's so much in the media, just forget rap, is about this death and negativity and drugs and all this chaos that goes on in the world. And you guys, I think, are providing a light on that on the one hand, but also a great alternative with live music and some of the other songs on Richmond Hill. So the balance of that and the reality of the addiction and all these other things that are going on as an artist, is it more just for you about creating the art, or is it more about having important things to say sometimes? How do you look at that?
I want to give you fancy answers for these questions, but really, we just like I knew that particular beat for PPE. That's special because, without incriminating myself, Ace gave me some 45s that I may or may not use for some of the album beats, and so that was a cool one to kind of chop up some things from that for PPE. But I knew right away when I heard those voices, I'm like, oh, I can use these voices, and I know that, you know, anytime you have vocal samples, for the most part, it kind of sets a theme for an MC or a writer to be like, oh, it's saying this. I'm going to write the song about this. So I kind of knew that was going to happen. I sent it to Ace, and he got it. He understood, and he totally went there 100%, and it came out amazing. Um, that beat reminds me of something you may have heard on Disposable Arts. You know, just the vibe of that. Um, but yeah, we're just trying to have fun, man. I'm trying to have fun when I make beats and just do shit that I've never done before. And then when Ace likes it, it's great. It becomes a song, and I'm like, oh man. So it's not really that scientifical. There's no thinking beforehand. It's not like, you know, yeah. It's just me having fun, and then whatever translates and the beats reaches Ace. He either likes it or he doesn't, and it becomes a song or it goes to another artist.
Gotcha. Okay. That being said, sonically, as you look back with the Brooklyn story versus Richmond Hill, what would you say are the kind of the sonic themes that are similar and different in your opinion?
That's a great question. So the different thing about this album is I had Shy the Beat Yoda mix most of the Richmond Hill album and then Ricardo master it, which is different than the first album. I think the new album sounds really good. I'd be interested to hear. So far, all the feedback has been real positive and amazing. I've had no one, say anything but good feedback. So I think we elevated the sound, if anything. I think things sound real good. So let's see what the people think over time. Brooklyn Story was really well received, so it's always difficult for artists to like top the first album. But I think we have successfully delivered something that is of equal quality. Some people are even saying better. Time will tell. The people decide what's a classic or not. We don't. We just give it to you. Here's the plate of food. Either you like it or you don't like it.
That is for sure. And the people will let you know their opinion more than ever.
Absolutely, they will. Trust me. The internet, social media, people will not hold back.
Yes. So at the same time, too, it does seem, I've been following your career a long time since the inception, basically. It does seem like you've also put out less music lately. Is there, is that because of the Akai and some of the other things, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because of Akai, and I've just been zoned into to doing work with them, and also straight up working in music and hip hop, and it could be exhausting because as a producer, unless you're like in the top 5% um, of popping, I call them popping producers. Like you have to pursue MCs and give them beats and see if they want to use them and chase people, and sometimes that could be very uninspiring. I'm fortunate that I have years in the game and I've made good relationships with a lot of amazing MCs that want to work with me and seek me out or want to collaborate because of my skills. And that's what it's all about. But that's like an earned privilege because, when you first start out, you have to send your beats to artists you're unknown. You have to pursue them. You have to keep pushing and sending beats, and people don't hit you back. It's like a process, which is what I did when I started, when nobody knew who I was. I had to, I had to shop my beats, and now it's less about shopping and more about connecting with the relationships I've built with MCs like a Torre, a Masta Ace, Pharaoh, um, and then I still pursue some newer artists through contacts and people at labels, but it's really about locking in with Ace and focusing on the sound design right now. That's where I'm at, to be honest. I want to try and send more beats out to like major labels in the future, but for now, I'm happy where I'm at.
Well, there it is. All right.
There it
Well,
is.
Marco Polo, thanks so much. Anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Thanks for having me. And if you're not familiar with our work or my work, go check us out. New album, Richmond Hill, in stores now and available everywhere.
Well, there it is. Thanks so much, Marco Polo. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.